So we're here today. I'm Hakluke, by the way. I work for Bugcrowd. I am the manager for training and quality assurance. And also a big part of my role is kind of reaching out to researchers, making sure everyone's happy. And we've started kind of thinking about how we can interact technically and provide technical education and just like really be part of the community more, which is something that myself and Bugcrowd is very passionate about. So today we have a really exciting guest. His name is Caleb Kinney, and he is a bug bounty hunter, or he kind of was a bug bounty hunter, but he's kind of stepped back from that a bit. His day job is a pen tester. I'm guessing that's full-time, Caleb, but you can definitely expand on that. And he has basically rewritten a tool called Hunt, which was originally coded by Jason Haddix and I believe some other internal people at Bugcrowd. But it's a really exciting tool that basically makes bug hunting easier because it makes it easier to prioritize what you're hunting on. But I don't want to give away too much right now because Caleb's going to take you all the way through it and why it's been rewritten and how it's been improved. So Caleb, take it away. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I currently work as an application security pen tester, doing application security assessments. And I was a bug hunter until my daughter was born about 2 years ago, and I just took a quick hiatus. But I'm hoping to get back into it eventually. And this was, making tools like this are kind of my way to give back to the community that I do love.
Yeah, awesome. And so, how did you hear about Hunt? Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of a funny story, but Jason Haddix really had a big inspiration on my career as well as Bugcrowd as a whole. So I was at DEF CON 22 and saw his original methodology talk, the real deal, the first one. And it just really inspired me to change from being a more of a security generalist to actually, focusing on application security. And then just, hanging out in the Bugcrowd suites and at the Bugcrowd parties, which were probably some of the best events at DEF CON period. I definitely had the best swag. Really just propelled me into focusing on application security and really having a passion for it. And then I quickly just made an account on Bugcrowd and started bug hunting there, and then looking for more application security like roles. So I really have a lot to give back to Bugcrowd and to Jason Haddix for their time, their talks, and their mentorship. So going back to Hunt is when that video hit from DEF CON 25, I was completely blown away. I thought this was just I really used his first methodology talk as like my guide to application security. It was something that I would give to any testers looking to get in the game, something that could showcase that. And I thought that Hunt was a great way to bring that in into our tooling, sharing those same ideas into that. And then the crazy thing about that tool was that the tool was great, but it was really the data that was backed it. So, quoting some metrics from the talk itself, but they collected and analyzed over 18,000 parameters, from Bugcrowd's data set. Obviously, that's something that, not a lot of people have access to that can see, that data in the work. And that just really blew my mind. That was kind of like the best of the best. That, these are things that you should focus on. That's tried and true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to stress that like the coolest part about this tool is the data set. And let me tell you, like, if we did the same data analysis today, I don't think very much would have changed in terms of vulnerable parameters. But I just want to give like a little rundown on what Hunt actually is and how it will help bug hunters. So it's a Burp extension. It works now. It works on the Community Edition and the Free Edition. The Community Edition and the Pro Edition. But basically, I'm saying you don't need to pay for it. You don't need a Pro Burp license. And it is essentially an extension that analyzes the traffic that is going through Burp, and it looks for particular parameter names in the requests. And then when it finds one that is likely to be vulnerable to a specific vulnerability class, such as SQL injection or SSRF, it will flag that. And how it knows that it is likely to be vulnerable, it's based off the parameter name. So what the original Hunt version did, the developers of the original Hunt version, including the main man, Jason Haddix, what they did was they took Bugcrowd data. So they took a bunch of valid Bugcrowd submissions that were vulnerable to, for example, SQL injection. And then they would find the top 10 parameters, like the top 10 parameters that are most likely to be vulnerable to SQL injection based off that data. And then they did that for every single vulnerability class. So they did it for SQL injection, SSRF, cross-site scripting, local file inclusion, like all the different vulnerability classes. And then once they had that data, they just built it into a Burp extension that analyzes your traffic. And then it makes it really easy for you to prioritize your hunting, even if you're just browsing through a web application and you happen to have Burp running. You can kind of, like a good process when you're starting hunting on a web app might be, you open a web application, put it through Burp, and then just use all of the features. And then you can go back through Hunt, and you'll have like a good set of suspicious looking requests to start with. So it doesn't actually find vulnerabilities. It just prioritizes where you should look manually to find those vulnerabilities. Have I made any mistakes, Caleb? Do you agree?
No, that was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah, and I agree. That's the big. It's pushing you in the direction that so you can do your own manual analysis and fuzzing, but it's giving you that leg up, to look in these certain areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I am super excited about this. So there was an original version. Why did you rewrite it?
Yeah, so the original version was written again by Jason Haddix, and I also want to give a shout out to JP Swagnito. They did an awesome job on that extension. But this was a few years ago when this came out. It was originally written in Python, so you need to include Jthon to run it. And it really just wasn't no longer working in Burp 2.0. And there's actually, you could tell in the community that people wanted this tool. And Jay Haddix himself, kind of put, call to action that, hey, let's get this tool updated, to the newest version. And I was already, dipping my toe into making Burp and Zap extensions. And like I said, it had a Bugcrowd and himself had a huge impact in my life. I just feel like that was something that I could give back to the community is by taking this on and updating it.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I mean, you're positioned so well to do this. So I think it's really great that you're able to do this because you can write Kotlin well, and like you understand bug bounties, and you're a pen tester, and you understand the value of having this data right in the Burp interface. That is so cool. All right. So you rewrote it because it didn't work in Burp 2. Also because it's in Kotlin, we're assuming that it's not using Jython anymore, which means that it's going to be more efficient, hopefully, as well, right?
Yep. Yeah. And Kotlin's an awesome language. And I really want to encourage people who are writing extensions in Python because they just didn't want to get to that level of Java, or they were discouraged by dealing with Java directly. Kotlin is a modern programming language. It has a very nice, concise syntax. It's actually very easy to go from Python or other modern languages like Rust and Swift and those and TypeScript, things like that, going right into Kotlin. So it's statically typed. It has null safety, meaning that there's no pointer exceptions, or at least you have to deal with those. It targets the JVM, so it has 100% interoperability with Java. But also Kotlin also compiles down to native code via LLVM and also into JavaScript. You could actually write JavaScript in Kotlin. So it's a very versatile language. And then
Wow.
and then rewriting, you can take kind of a stand back and see what the original developers had in mind for it, and then just kind of decide how could you make these better using Burp's new APIs that may have came out, and just some of the new tips and tricks that people are using in Burp extensions.
Awesome. Okay, well, should we jump into a demo?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. we can see exactly how it works then.
Okay, so how you kind of alluded to that. It looks for parameter names. So we're going to kind of game the system a little bit by just passing in some parameter names into an asset or endpoint that's in scope. So that's kind of key, is that this will only work if the targets are in scope. So we could add some of that, and I'd like to hear from the community on how we can make it better, if they would like it to report on everything, or keep them scoping. But for right now, it's just trying to get through the noise. It does stay into whatever scope. That's the only time it inspects it, and it's passively scanning. So this is fully non-active. It's just looking through parameter names and then reporting on them, so you can do further analysis. So let's just go ahead, and we're going to see if you had a parameter like URL, and it was going to a website. Then what Helm would do is actually it's going to display it here, and then it would tell you what the vulnerability type it is. It would show you the parameter, the title of the page, and some other niceties here. And then if you wanted some more information on that, you could, right click and then go to details, and it'll actually pop up like a pop-up message that, that shows some more information on that and gives you some resources, to further investigate that certain parameter.
That is so cool. So it's not saying this is vulnerable. It's saying basically you should check this out because it's likely to be vulnerable. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. And then so it really is just part of your manual, penetration testing process. And the same thing for Zap. The Zap version, works exactly the same. And it, if you click on details, it would pop up with a message that's very similar. So the nice thing about this is that the UIs are synced up, and the feature set's going to be synced up, where if you prefer Zap or if you prefer Burp, you're still going to be able to use the tool, as you would normally. Yeah,
that is so cool.
Another really cool feature is that we added the ability to repeat the requests, right inside the tab. So you no longer have to pop this out to repeater if you want to do some inspecting here. So, if, and really you're only limited to, the raw, HTTP request. So if you want to change this to, slash, help or something like that, and you repeat the request, you're actually going to see that response, here on the side. So you can actually do some of your fuzzing and manual checks, and then decide maybe you need to pass it over, to something fully featured, more like intruder or like repeater. And so if you did that, you actually could, right click on this and send to a repeater. And the nice thing about it is it'll actually tell you, what was that type, that vulnerability class. So then you can do your,
to stop you from having like 500 numbers in your repeater tabs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So at least you kind of know, maybe I need to come back to this instead of trying to guess like, oh, what was exactly telling me? So we can try it just another one. So let's say you had an ID, which the ID part actually falls into several different categories. So how does Hunt, take care of that? So what it actually does, it's going to give you one record here, but it's going to give you these different types. And the nice thing about it is this type selection here is actually auto-populated to what types is actually found. So let's actually go ahead and remove this. So you can right click and just delete it. If you decide it's false positive, you don't want to investigate it anymore, let's go ahead and delete it. And then you'll see here, you're only going to get that one type here because that's the only type you found so far. But let's go ahead and put it back here. And then if you want to inspect that same thing, if you go to details, it would actually give you each of those pop-ups, which all the information for each of those types.
Yeah. Wow. So when you right click and go show details, can we just have a look at one of those?
Sure, absolutely.
So it's popping up a little pop-up that is, what does it actually say? It's giving you, so it's giving you actual resources that you can go and check out on, like, this could be vulnerable to SQL injection, and it's saying go and check out these links to know how to exploit SQL injection. And that is just so cool. So like here's the thing about Burp, I think at the moment, is like you're either 100% manual or you're using something like ActiveScan if you have the professional version, which is like a vulnerability scanner, right? But there is nothing in the standard burp without an extension that does this, which is like it flags things that you should probably attempt, but wouldn't necessarily be scanned for, or maybe active scan the particular payloads that it puts in wouldn't result in the correct in like a vulnerable response, even though it is vulnerable. So you'll get kind of false negatives, but like that is really cool that it does that. And I'm just thinking about how it gives you these resources. This is like the perfect companion for someone who is getting started with pen testing, web app pen testing, or bug bounty hunting or whatever, because it kind of acts as like an automated version of your intuition, right? So I feel like, you know, you're a application pen tester. I was the same before. And like after you've done like X amount of pen tests, you develop this this like intuition. Like if you see a URL parameter, you're going to try a couple of different types of vulnerability classes, like just because you think, okay, it says URL, I'm going to try an open redirect. If it works, I'm going to try and upgrade that to an XSS. I'm going to try an SSRF. And you would actually just probably like do that naturally. But this extension kind of acts as that intuition in a way. And I think that is super important. Not only that, but if you're not a beginner and you do have that intuition, it doesn't mean that you're going to manually like look at every single request that goes through an application. So this helps you to like prioritize, or this helps you to make sure that you don't miss like obvious things to check in an application, which I think is so important, especially if you're doing kind of methodology based testing or pen testing, or if you're just a bug hunter who wants to make sure that they're not missing any obvious bugs. Yeah, I think
absolutely.
That is so cool. Yeah. It's
and
like
other couple features. Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So another couple features that that I really like about this extension, and I really appreciate everybody who's given me feedback, you know, and helped me make it better. So it's really been you know, a community effort. People have reached out, they give me feedback, they point me in the right direction about what they would want to see in an extension. So I can't take all the credit. And actually, you know, all those pop-ups and stuff, you know, so we're actually going to get to that. So all that data. So what actually came along from the original Burp extension from Hunt 1, the only thing that is actually repeated here is this data set. So it was a JSON file, and now we've made like, you know, an actual piece of Kotlin, you know, Kotlin classes and objects here. So, but all that data, you know, I don't take any credit for that. That was actually brought on from the old tool, and then we're just using it in kind of a new way of displaying it. I kind of call it a remix. You know, it's really it's kind of a lot of the same logic. It's just, you know, in displayed in a different manner, or, you know, interacts in a little different manner.
Yeah.
So one thing you can do here too is you can add comments. So if you want to, you know, look at this later, you know, look into this, you know, and you know, looks good. And then you know, you have, I wouldn't call it advanced filtering, but you at least have some rudimentary filtering here. So you can filter on strings, and then you can also filter on types. So let's say I only want to see, you know, the SSRFs. You can filter for that, and obviously they'll kind of go away. You can reset and bring everything back. You can also clear your issues. So let's say you just want to, you know, start from scratch, you know, or make this a, you know, you know, something you're just checking every so often, you know, clearing it out and coming back to it. So it doesn't just, you know, fill up. You can also sort all these. So you can just filter for each of the columns here, and then it'll also auto scroll. So you get that nice, you know, you know, you're looking at the tab and you're seeing the data kind of fly past you in the manner that you would like. And I think it works really well with your workflow. And the same thing in the Zap version. So the Zap version is also fully featured with all the same, you know, features here. So you know, everything works in Zap and Burp, whatever your tool of choice is. Or if you're like me and you want to, you know, chain them together, you're more than welcome to.
So you actually chain, like, do you, when you say chain it together, do you get the traffic from a browser and then into Burp and then into Zap? So it goes through both, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I have my setup. Yeah, no, and I really want to challenge everybody to take a second look at Zap as well. I mean, I will say that I'm hoping that this tool in future versions of it will actually really showcase the power of Zap. It has an awesome API backend. that I hope to hook into, so that you'll have an API endpoint that you can, if you want to look at what the hunt data is brought back to you in your table, you can actually, make a HTTP request and bring that data back in, in case you're doing this in some kind of distributed environment. But yeah, you can. So what I'm doing now is actually I have the upstream proxy set to from Burp to Zap. So you're getting all the traffic, you're getting all the nuances of that, and then you can use both tools together, whatever their feature set that you both enjoy. So like you have the power of all the scripts from Zap, but maybe you really enjoy the repeater functionality or intruder functionality from Burp, or you have Burp Pro and you want to leverage that scanning capability, but you still want to leverage some of the things that Zap has a strength in.
Yeah, and I'm definitely a Burp guy, and I've hardly used Zap, if I'm completely honest, but I have noticed that Zap has a lot of features that are only available in Burp Suite Professional, but Zap is completely free. So if you're in a position where you are not going to pay for Burp because it's not worth it for you, or whatever, Zap is something to check out, I think. And I'm not saying that from experience. I'm just saying that from limited experience, that it's really cool. And you mentioned that it's got really, really good API stuff. Like a huge part of bug bounty hunting at the moment that people are getting into a lot is automation. So if you can automate like, there you go. If you can automate like calls, if you can put data into and get data out of Zap and have Zap doing like scans and things like that, and you can put that on maybe like a VPS in the cloud, and scan like all of your recon data. How good is that? Like you're literally, that's just, I haven't seen that done actually in that much depth, but from anyone yet. I'm sure people are doing it, but it's not popular. I'll say that much. So that would be a really good angle to take for bug bounty hunters. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I don't want to derail this conversation, but from the original extension. But yeah, I mean, everything you can do from Zap, from the UI, is all really done through the API. Or if it's not, it's actually semi-trivial to write an extension that actually adds onto that. You can add your own endpoints. So if you want to, let's say, get some sort of data that you care about, like hunt, like my plan is that you'll have an API endpoint that you can hit to get the hunt data out of. May that be just the vulnerability data. Maybe you just want, the data here. Maybe you want to know like what parameters you want to look at, but also just to get this table, in a JSON format that you can ingest, at a later date.
Cool. And how do you get, can you do that with the hunt stuff? Can you get data to and from hunt using the API?
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about. So I haven't done anything yet, but that's really what I'm excited about doing is leveraging that API endpoint, to get data out and maybe do some other automation tips. But I think it's gonna be a fun project to work with that.
Yeah.
As well as just one more thing I'll show here, just since I have you. And actually, I can't remember exactly who gave the talk, but it was at a Level Up a couple years ago, where they did a talk about Zap for people who like Burp. And it was a really great talk. If no one's looked at it, you should definitely.
Yeah.
But one really awesome thing is they have something called the HUD, which actually I'm assuming, let's see.
So what's the talk you're looking for? Was it a Level Up talk or?
Yeah, it was Level Up talk. I believe it was by, I can't remember his last name, but his first name is David. And it was a couple years ago.
I'll see if I can find it too. Yeah, here it is. I'll link it to you and you can open it up on your screen so that we can see it on the call.
So you actually have this called the HUD, and it's the heads up display. And what it gives you here, it actually gives you all this data here. It gives you like some of these passive and active scans. So you can actually look here and see these these site alerts here. Yeah, you can spider from here. You can, control your scripts. All right here, you can actually even see your history. So you can see your histories here coming down the list.
What? That's all,
You
and that all
can,
that data is
yeah.
coming straight from Zap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been throwing right up on the screen. The other thing you can do is you can actually even let's do a break and let's I go into resources. So you can actually I think I had safe mode on, so I think it's probably not letting me. But you can so you can actually do your repeating and requesting from here. You can replay it in the console or the browser. Cool. Yeah, so it's a very awesome tool they put together that you can stay right in the browser in your workflow and get this kind of data. And I think it'd be cool to add something like to Hunt where you have the same kind of data in a similar environment.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I would totally use that. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to
definitely play around with that
too much about Zap because this is about Hunt, but that is really, really cool. And just an idea for bounty hunters, like use that. Use the Hunt API and Zap in the cloud for free because Zap's free and Hunt is free. And you can easily kind of crawl your targets and get back vulnerable parameters, and you could send it to your Slack or in a text file or whatever and review them later. I think that would be a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to highlight a couple to do. So the API endpoint is high on my to do, mainly just for I want to get it done and see how it works. I think highlighting potential vulnerable parameters in Burp and Zap would be awesome to to basically highlight it in the requests. And so that's something I need to implement. I think it would be awesome to show if those parameter values were also reflected, and then probably highlight that as well. So if you find a cross-site scripting vulnerability or something that at least is getting reflected back on the page, that also just give you one more leg up to look for that. We kind of went over the details I need to work on, getting some clickable links and better a little bit more formatted for that detail screen, so you don't have to copy and paste so much. Filter by parameter name, I kind of just thought of this before we got on this call. I think that'd be kind of cool if you're looking for a certain parameter, and that's kind of how the old Hunt worked, is that you actually did a drop down through the parameter names. And I think that'd be kind of cool if you're looking for a parameter name or you want to see other endpoints that parameter name is on, then having a filter box for that. So I'm going to work on that. And then the really big ask to make it really feature as Hunt 1 would be to have people be able to actually update and modify certain rules. So right now it's kind of the rules that are set with, and obviously we already went over those rules are awesome and they have a lot of information behind them, and they're really known to be effective. But if you want to add your own rules in, you should be able to do that too. So that's what I'm kind of playing with, the best way to do that, and I'd love to hear from the community on how to do that. But my mind is to have something kind of like Intruder, where you can remove and add your own lists and vulnerability classes and even your details and things like that, like right in the plugin, instead of having to upload like another format, just right in your workspace.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would be totally happy to have like a JSON file or something that it reads, but you'll whatever you decide would be cool.
Or both, and that's or both, I think and that's kind of what I want to see out, is where this, obviously I know where this fits in my workflow, but I'd love to hear from the community where it fits in theirs, and we'll make it better working together.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's wrap it up. How do people find this new version of Hunt? Where do you get it? How do you install it?
Yeah, we are really early on, and that's why I also want to preface that there's some bugs, there's some things that need to be cleaned up, but I wanted to get everybody a first look, especially again to ask the community to let's work together. Let's make this like a really good extension. I'd rather not be my extension. I'd rather be our extension.
Yeah, for sure.
So right now there is an early copy of the Burp version on Hunt. So if you go here, and it's actually the 2.0 version. If you go to releases, you'll be able to download that right away. But as you can see, I got some pull requests in here adding the Zap add-on, and then we kind of transitioned away from that remix to Hunt version 2, just so we can continue with the Hunt legacy and show it the respect it deserves. But yeah, I'm really excited about what's to come, and it's definitely early in the process. So excited what happens next.
Great. And if people want to follow you and your progress, how do they find you online?
Yeah, so I have a Twitter. It's OptionalValue. You can also go to derail.io and you can just see some of my projects. And like I said, right now that's kind of my focus is some of those passion projects. So
Cool.
you look at me there. If you need anything, reach out to me. A lot of times I'm on the Slacks as either CAK or Caleb. So I'm not very original.
Awesome. I know people are going to miss that. So how do you spell your Twitter handle? Spell it out.
Sure, it's OptionalValue.
Optional
No spaces.
value, no spaces. Yeah. I found you, followed. Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Caleb, and keep up the good fight. And this is also a call out to the community. If you have any ideas, if you have any suggestions, if you know how to write Kotlin, or you have some ideas for like rules to write, things like that, I'm sure Caleb would warmly welcome pull requests, issues for beta testing, things like that. So stay in touch. Best place to find you, I guess, is Twitter, which is twitter.com/optionalvalue, OptionalValue. And the place that you find Hunt is github.com/bugcrowd/HUNT, all capitals HUNT. By the way, what does Hunt stand for? Does it stand for something?
So now you're gonna embarrass me because I kept putting it lowercase in the extension, and you'll actually see like some pull requests where I'm like, oh, it needs to be uppercase. I don't know. That's something we'll have to get on a later episode. But one thing is, it's not in the store yet, but I know we're actively working to push to the store. So that'll be really exciting. Once it's actually in the store, and easy to get your hands on it. But for right now, you can go to the releases right now, download the jar, and then load it in your Burp session manually, and same for Zap. So, but hopefully they'll both get to the Burp store and the marketplace very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Thank you.
See you.